guys, we got this. Let's go. Gun wide trip sweep. Pros X go. On one. Ready?
Ready.
What's going on, everyone? ANCAP24 here from HuddleGG. In today's video, we're going to talk about RPOs and the 5 mistakes that you're doing on defense that are preventing you from stopping them. Okay, and these are going to be tips that you can apply to any defense, and you can analyze what you're doing wrong in these tips to basically look at your personal defense and saying, that's why it's happening. I can go ahead and prevent that to make it happen. So let's get into it, okay? So the first tip that we're going to talk about is the adjustments that you're doing on the defense when it comes to pinching your D line or pressing your defense, or kind of put them in the same boat, okay? So what I want to do is start off by talking about pinching your line. Let's just start off with calling dollar, and we'll call cover 2 man. I'm going to call this RPO zone read bubble, okay? From the offensive standpoint, you can see who is the read key and who is the pass key. You don't get to have this information in game when it comes to the defense, or it would give away that they're running an RPO, right? So this is something that you want to see in practice mode just so you can see it. Now there's an R key and a P key. For the sake of this video, I'm going to call the R key the run key. And the reason why is that guy is basically designated to stop the run. His choice is either to stop the run by the running back or stop the run by the quarterback. From an offensive standpoint, that's what he's reading, right? But from a defensive standpoint, he's the run key. From the defensive standpoint, that P is the pass key. That means he's going to play the fly, right? And the R key is going to come down. So watch this. He's going to do this. You see how he's going to go ahead and bag it. We're good to go, right? So we can do that. Well, what if we go with that first thing I talked about, which was pinching your D line, okay? If right now you got like this, as soon as you pinch your D line, I want to make sure that we kind of look at this. The R key is going to switch to the player that's defending the Y. And why is that? If your defensive line, right, these guys right here, are not any part of their body is outside of the tackle, he is no longer able to be the read key. So they're going to pass it off to the nearest person to the outside, which is going to be that corner. So when you're doing your meta blitz and you're pinching your D line, you're actually inviting the RPO to go at the corner that is closest to the RPO, because that guy is going to be on there, right? So in this instance, we're on man coverage. Again, I'm telling you, when it has the R key over his head, he is now the run defender. He is no longer going to cover the Y. Not a glitch, it's just the way the game works, right? So watch what happened here. You see here, the guy comes down, we can throw this ball over here, and now we're going to be able to do it. And it was your adjustments that changed the game. The game was prepared to play this the way it was supposed to, right? If you do nothing, right, and you basically don't, stress out your defense and move them over, you're going to see that the game was perfectly able to play this play. As soon as you told the defense to pinch and say, I no longer want that guy to be part of the read, it's going to pass it to the closest defender. Again, it's the way the game's coded. Am I a fan of the fact that man coverage gets overridden? No, 100%. I'm not, defending the coding. I'm just going to tell you what the coding is and why your mistake is making this happen, okay? So that is the first one. Now let's go to a different one, which I said here was part of it, which was pressing your defense, right? This example, I'm going to show you something that was really popular last year that they got banned in the MCS for no reason, but it was this RPO, actually I had the gun too close here, RPO read flat. I'm going to do the same cover 2 man defense, right? And you're going to see here, if I go ahead and read this, you're going to see that the read is basically on that defensive end, and the pass key is on that corner, right? Well, when you press your defenses in some defenses, what's going to end up happening is it changes who's the read key and who's the pass key. So now the read key is now, because you pressed them, is no longer going to cover the tight end. Remember, we've established this, that if it has an icon over him, he is now going to play only the run. So if this is the case, you go and hike the ball, you see how the tight end's open, and you got yourself an easy catch. So I want to make sure that I indicate to you that when people are playing a certain way, this game was coded in a way that defended this the right way, and so we made the adjustment to go ahead and press the players. Once the guy was pressed, it changed the icons, and if you don't know that from having a knowledge standpoint of your own defense, you're going to think that you got glitched out. But it was honestly your adjustment that made that happen. So when you're running certain defenses, know that that can be something that can change the way it is, okay? So I wanted to talk about that. That's number one, okay? Let's talk about number two. This is a simple math game, right? Simple math game would be the trips bubble, right? Trips bubble it's just numbers games, guys, right? So a lot of people will run this bubble here, the RPO alert bubble, say trips there, and you're trying to defend it with only 2 players, right? So let's just do something like this where it doesn't matter. We can do baseline. It doesn't matter what we're doing with all these guys. You can do this at 30 and 5 if you want, 25 and 5. It doesn't matter, right? Say we're doing this with a cover 3, right? The simple math of this is they've got 2 blockers with the Y and the X, and you basically don't have any players that are going to go ahead and help. Now, if you know anything about basically the way the game's coded with run fits and all that type of stuff, right? You're going to see that you're going to have the ability to basically have some of these hook curls be part of the run fit, so they're not going to jolt out to the left right away if they're in a zone. So in this instance, what you're going to see is just a numbers game, is that you're going to be able to throw this out here, get your blocks, and you're going to be good to go, right? So you're losing the numbers game. That's a simple thing, right? That's a mistake you're making. An easy way to do this, whether this is a nickel, or if you want to help yourself out with any other coverage, is to put man align on. If you put man align on, what ends up happening is now you're going to take one of your players and you're going to move them over. So for this instance, I'm just going to say we'll put it in cover 3 again, right? And I'll do this, and we're going to go with man align. When I man align, now you've got 3 players over here, right? So now, if we wanted to, we can definitely go ahead and say, so we just man these guys up, right? And now we've got 2 players, hat on a hat. We can get these guys closer, whatever the case is. But now you've got the ability where you're controlling the numbers, right? You change whatever you want with your players. You can user out here, just kind of explaining, what you're doing in order to change the numbers game. You don't have the numbers over here, right? Now you have the ability where they only have 2 players to block. You've got 3 players over there to cover. You've changed the numbers game. So the easy way of doing that is literally just going into man align. So I know it's a simple tip, but if you're allowing 3-on-2 out there, then you're allowing yourself to basically get beat. So that is number 2. So now let's get to number 3 on the list, and that's calling the appropriate formation to stop the RPO that they are basically coming at you with, right? So this has a little bit of knowledge, and I'll kind of explain what it is, right? If somebody is running a RPO that's in the spread formation, like the spread flex week that I'm showing here in the RPO read bubble, for all these examples, I'm using the Eagles playbook. It is a meta playbook. I wanted to kind of use that. If they're using that play and you go ahead and you call nickel, right? I'm going to go ahead and just from a defensive standpoint, I'm going to call nickel, and then I'm going to call this play, right? Well, what happens is that this is absolutely going to get shut down if you leave it like that. See, the guy got highlighted. He's the P. He's going to be able to come down and stop that play, right? He's in a good position. We can man him up the whole 9 yards, right? Well, you see that we only have 1 slot corner close to the line of scrimmage, right? It's nickel. It's only got 1 slot corner. When you do this, when it's either base aligned, where you've got 2 high safety look, or you call a cover 2, a cover 4, a cover 3 cloud, a cover 3 buzz, any 2 high look play, there is not an additional nickel corner over the tight end, right? The offense, all they have to do is flip the play, and now what they're going to do is that the P icon is coming from that 12 to 15 yard depth. That is a much harder position to stop this in than if there was a slot corner. So if they do this, they throw this out here, now you got the ability to get easy yards against the defender because you did not start in a defense that was suitable. What can you do in this situation, right? If you were to call a cover 3, right? If I just do this from the defense standpoint, I call a cover 3, even though I'm base aligned. If I unbase align, this guy's going to come down, and he's now going to be playing over the tight end, right? So if they did this flip, that player's now in his position where he's going to be able to play it because he's from a much shorter spot, and now we can go play it. What you're doing is you're calling your baseline blitz, so you're playing your baseline defense or your nickel 2 high safety look, and you're giving up one of the slots. If you're giving up one of the slots, they can easily run these style RPOs on you to be able to get easy yards. So number 4, we're going to talk about safety depth. This is going to be something that's probably going to be news to all of you, but there's going to be 2 situations where safety depth is really going to come into play. The first one is any type of auto movement. Like if you look at my defense right now, if I go ahead and go to FS zone blitz, very, very popular play right now in Madden, the safety moves down. Okay, that's auto movement. The second example I'm going to show you is that most people don't know that the safeties can play at a closer depth inside the 20 on certain play calls. And so in the red zone, they come up closer. And that can also affect the read key and the pass key, okay? So to show you this, what I'm going to do on defense, I'm just going to call like a cover 4 to show you to start, right? I'm going to call the same RPO that we showed you before, the read bubble. And what you're going to see is that you look at this from a standpoint of the offense, right? They're going to see the read key and the pass key. They don't do anything here. The read key is on the player that is the defensive end, and the pass key is on the Y. We're fine, right? If we don't pinch our line, like in this situation, right, and we just go ahead and run this the way it is, we're good. We pinched our line. We already talked about this, how the read keys change because we pinched our line, right? But we're going to say that we didn't pinch our line. We're going to run this the exact same way that we normally do, right? Well, that's how it's supposed to do. Now, let me get out of this and show you how when you move one of those safeties up, like one of these auto motions, right, you're going to change the read key. So watch this. So on that play, the read key was on the defensive end, and then the pass key was on the nickel corner. Let's go ahead here and do this again. Same play, same everything, but we're going to change the defensive call, right? So you see here, when that guy moves up, see what happened there? Safety that moved down becomes the pass key, and the player responsible for the bubble now becomes the run defender or the R key. And a lot of times, if this guy's blitzing, and that guy's the read key, watch what ends up happening here, right? Let me just get off this guy so you can see it. You know, if that's the case, you can put that P on a zone as well, but he's not going to go ahead and cover this. And now you got yourself an easy throw to the outside because they changed the read key, or you personally changed the read key by making sure that that guy came up, right? When that guy came up, it changed the read key. So if you know, I know it's a mistake that you have no idea you're doing, but you're doing it, right? So I just wanted to kind of show you, you know, when he's up there, now when you move him back, it changes it back. So if you're leaving this guy here, basically, I think it's 8 yards, if I remember correctly. Under 8 yards, he's going to end up changing who's the read, who's the pass. Above 8 yards, you're fine. Below 8 yards, it changes it. So if you leave the auto motion and you're under 8 yards here, you're the reason why you changed the read and the pass key, basically to, you know, get your better blitz. So that is a big difference. Now, if I go ahead and I told you that in the red zone, I'm going to start this at the 21-yard line, okay? I'm going to call cover 0 here. And it does not matter if it's, you know, spinner, it could be DB fire out of dime. I'll just call that one, right? Here it is, DB fire out of dime. And what we're going to do is show you the difference inside and outside of the red zone. Okay, so I'm going to call DB fire. I'll call the same play, the read bubble. And what you're going to see here is that the players are going to be at 10 yards as far as the safeties, right? The safeties here at 10 yards, and because they're at 10 yards, what they're going to end up doing is they're not going to be part of the P or the R, right? The R is in the right spot, the P's in the right spot, we're in great space, right? But what if I just move this up into the red zone, 1 yard, and I just want to make sure you see it. I'm now inside the red zone. What happens, right? Guess what? Remember how we talked about safeties if they're under 8 yards? That changes the read key and the P key. Well, when you are playing cover 0 inside the 20, the game is coded, unless you're on base line, to be closer to the players because you got less yardage to cover. So because of that alignment, this is something that now changes the read in the P icon. So if you did not know that and you think you're doing everything right, the entire field, and then as soon as it gets to the 19-yard line, it changes the depth of your safeties, now you're having issues. So whether you're moving that guy up personally, whether you're changing the, you know, having auto motion, or if you're inside the 20, anytime your safeties are underneath 8 yards, that is going to change up who is the R and who is the P for these RPO read bubbles. The last mistake that I see often, and especially in our Discord, where we have a free Discord for HuddleGG, where we go ahead and, you know, basically answer everyone's question that we can, help you guys really get better at the game. And that Discord, you know, gives a lot of, you know, questions that really helps us with, you know, making videos to make sure that you guys, you know, all know this knowledge, right? And what the question is I have this defense that does really, really good against this RPO, but when I do a different RPO, it looks exactly the same, but it doesn't actually work. And what that means is basically people not understanding there is a difference between RPO read RPOs and then the RPO peaks and RPO alerts. With the peaks and the alerts, just so we can kind of clarify this from the beginning, there's only one run option. It's going to be an auto handoff or you're throwing the bubble. The quarterback does not have a second option to keep the ball, where in the reads, they do. So if you're going to be defending one of those, the idea behind that is that there's not going to be a conflict defender, which is that R defender, right? So you can get away with a lot of these mistakes I've been telling you in this video. Basically, it's saying, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, because you're changing the read key. Well, there's no read keys on there. So let me give you an example. If I go ahead and call this from an offensive standpoint, the RPO zone peak glance, it just basically looks like a bubble, right? And I can call it just say cover 2. And maybe I'm going to man this guy up, and I'm going to pinch my line, and I'm going to say, you know what, this is my defense. I'm going to cover down here, whatever the case is. And I could stop this every single time with this defense, right? We go ahead and do this. We throw this over here. This guy comes down and basically helps us out, right? Well, you're like, I've got this, right? I could stop bubbles. I have no problem stopping bubbles. But what you're realizing is you're not stopping the read bubble. You're stopping an alert bubble or a peak bubble because they're totally different. Now, if I was to get out of this and I go to a RPO read bubble, right? I'll just go ahead and it looks almost exactly the same. And we'll go to doubles off close and we'll do this RPO read bubble. And I'm going to do exactly the same thing I did on defense, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to man this guy up, right? And you can see on offense, you got the read and the thing. And as soon as I move this guy down, he becomes the peak. So we're doing the exact same thing, right? I got this. This is how I stopped it last time. I don't have to worry about this, right? We do this. Now the guy's going to come down on us. Now we got the ability to get the, that one player to not be part of defending it, right? If you look at the replay, that nickel corner basically went out there, okay? So understanding that not all of the RPOs are the same is huge, because if you need to recognize and understand, if you're playing somebody that, you're an all-pro and it gives you previous play, then you're going to know I can defend the reads one way, the alerts the other way. If you're not, and you're just seeing a bubble after bubble after bubble, and you think you're doing well, you want to just basically learn the things that I told you that was mistakes in the beginning and make sure you don't apply that to this. Because I think there's a lot of false hope out there that thinks that they have RPO defense, but they're only stopping the ones that are the peaks and the alerts. They're not stopping the read. So there's two different ways to defend them and what you have to worry about. So hopefully that made a whole lot of sense to you guys, and understanding what you're doing on the defensive end and what you need to be looking for is causing your issues against RPOs. Hopefully EA can at least give us the opportunity that if you man him up, he no longer becomes the read. There's just no read defender, and that becomes the user's job to do it. But until then, we have to do what we have with the gaming and the coding. And I hope that this cleared it up for you. If you guys are interested in knowing how to stop specific RPOs, we have this section in our website called our Meta Buster. And we show you, not only do we take all these principles of showing you how to set yourself up for success, we show you actually the adjustments made to do so as well. So definitely check that out, guys. We appreciate y'all, and we'll catch you on the next video.